He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Attention, citizens of fair Gotham, and welcome once again to Bat Minute and Robin, the show that swings through the vines of Joel Schumacher's masterpiece. I guess you could say that. 1 minute at a time. I am one of your hosts, John Parker.
And well, look at me. Who am I? Plant girl? Vine lady? No, it's me, Niall McGowan.
You're my plant girl. That's how I see you.
That's so many things to say about, like, just that little bit of dialogue. It's like, what the hell is this?
This whole week, there's a lot of questions. There really, really is. And to help us get to the bottom of this, we have a combat expert, let's say. We have...
Don't say that.
Jill Bearup.
Hello.
You
I'm
are an expert.
Fake combat. Well, I'm an expert in fake combat, which is subtly different. And generally, when you say that, it stops like dudes challenging you to duels.
Oh, God.
I'm like, no, you don't understand. I only pretend to hit people. I mean, sometimes I do hit people, but only with their consent. And it doesn't usually hurt.
Yeah, I think someone challenged you to a duel, though. I imagine them just like taking out the glove, getting ready for a slap, like, I challenge you.
I was picturing it like Hamilton. Everyone just starts breaking into song. That's how I want my duels to go down. Yeah, I
like
regularly
a rap battle.
duel, you know.
I like it. I would be very bad at that too. I'd probably be better with the swords, but you know, it would be interesting.
Yeah. Well, let's just say though, Jill, because you do run a YouTube channel where you do talk about like various combat scenarios, be it a lot of sword fighting stuff and a lot of fighting in sort of restrictive clothing, like corsets and dresses and whatnot. And this, of course, this whole franchise has a bunch of people fighting in very restrictive clothing. So I don't know if you have any hands-on experience of fighting in a coverall rubber suit of any kind, but
that would be an amazing story if I did, though. But no, sadly not.
You should, God damn it! But we should probably introduce the episode. We are here today to talk about minute 47, and the minute starts with an "I," and it ends with a lovely garden gal. So we are back as Freeze gets instantly disarmed by the bat.
Just put a strap on the gun, like over your shoulder. One of those little ones that goes around your wrist. Yeah, this is like the second time in the movie he's lost this gun. It's like the only thing he needs.
It's absurd.
Like, if it's your one thing, then really you should keep an eye on it.
Yeah. That's an excellent point. Actually, all you need is a strap. I was thinking more high tech. Just put a strap on it. Fine, sorted.
They like magnetize it to his suit or something, but like...
Well, it looks like it's magnetized, the way it always flies back into his hands. It never looks natural.
It's true. Also, the way it sticks to... Like, I watched the start of it, the first time he loses it, and it winds up on the dinosaur, and I'm like, is that dinosaur magnetic?
Yeah. It really, like, clings to it, and it doesn't make a lick of sense.
It just really looks like it's just... I'm assuming it's because that's exactly what it was, but it looks like it's on a string, and they're just going like, oop. Just drop it on the dinosaur there.
But, like, in a big-budget, blockbuster Hollywood movie, you're supposed to make it look like it is not on a string.
Like, Mr. Freeze, like, the most fallible of all Batman villains. Like, they'll just knock the thing out of his hand. That's him. He's done.
Basically, yeah. Good work, Freeze. You really tried so hard.
Yeah. And, of course, we get into full-on bat fisticuffs, which is a thing... Because me and John know nothing about fighting, whether it be real or fake. So it's kind of like every time we come to a combat minute, we're like, I guess these guys are like flipping around and stuff, and I don't know. But how would you judge though, Jill? Just like if you're actually, before we even get into that, like, what's your experience of this movie? Because of course it is quite divisive online.
It is. I associate this movie with my grandfather, because we had like a limited number of VHS tapes, which we used to watch at my grandparents' house. And when I think of Batman and Robin, the first thing I think of is my grandfather walking in during one of Robin's scenes where he shouts at Batman about how he should trust him more or whatever, and just looking at the screen and going, he's got a bit of an attitude, hasn't he?
That's Robin. Yeah.
But I was like, no, Granddad, he's sad and upset. And then now I'm older, I'm like, yeah, Granddad, you were entirely right. He's a pouty little boy.
He was totally right. In a way, that says that the movie is well made because he saw that one brief moment and instantly understood Robin.
It's true. It's like, you nailed it right there.
If you do have like a nostalgia for the movie though, but would you regard this as being a good Batman movie, Jill?
I don't hate it. I don't think I would necessarily choose to watch it a lot, but I watched it an awful lot as a child. So like I have some of that residual nostalgia, but watching it for the first time as an adult, I was like, this movie is so weird. It's so weird.
That's true.
What's even... Why is anybody doing anything? It's like... It's almost like fanfic Batman. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting, because there's a sort of coherent story, but it's also like, well, I like all of these characters, and so they're just all gonna be in here. It's like, we can't just have one villain, we're gonna have two. Actually, we're gonna have three, because we're gonna have Mr. Freeze, we're gonna have Poison Ivy, we're gonna have Bane.
Yeah.
We're gonna have Batman and Robin and also Batgirl. We're gonna have a subplot with Alfred. We're just gonna throw everything in the kitchen sink in there. Great.
and spend not enough time on any of them.
Yeah. It's like, do we have time to develop the emotional arcs here? No, let's go back to fake kicking people. The fighting is when I first did stage combat, I think it was 2018, and my teacher at the time, when I was like, this is so great, I enjoyed this so much, I'm definitely doing this again, he was like, that's wonderful. Just as a warning, you will never be able to watch films the same way again. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, he was totally right.
Oh.
which was kind of annoying. Like my first time I did stage combat, I wasn't really good enough to notice things when I watched movies, but like after doing it for a couple of years, I watched this and I went, huh, because 8 seconds into this minute, Batman kicks someone and you can see the air between his foot and the guy who falls over. And I was like, what? And I'm very forgiving of probably too forgiving of fight scenes in movies when, something goes a little bit wrong and they didn't quite catch it, and you do the best you can, you kind of fudge it, which is why everyone gets so mad at me about liking The Last Jedi. They're like, but the throne room fight, and I'm like, but I see your problem and I understand it, but I also kind of don't care.
Yeah, it's only a problem if you slow it down. If you just watch it as a movie, it's not a problem. It's fine.
But this, there's one thing happening on the screen, and it's Batman kicking this guy, and so all of your attention is on Batman kicking this guy, and there's just air.
Yeah, there's not really an excuse, is there? Like, there's an excuse when it happens in wrestling. It's like, okay, it's live, this happens, but it's like, this is Hollywood. Just do another take. It's fine. It's fine. You've got billions of dollars.
Yeah, and especially because the takes are all so short, it's literally like, do a move, do a kick, do a thing, and cut.
It would take seconds. Do it again.
You could also just do what they did in the 60s show, just lean completely into it and just have Bam show up on the screen. And it's like, you don't even have to see the connect because you just assume that it did.
Oh, I kind of love that about this, though. The ramshackle nature of a big budget blockbuster. Those two things shouldn't go together. A big budget blockbuster should be maybe bland, but it should be slick. And for some reason, this movie is not slick.
That is true, though. Even in Dark Knight Rises, people were pointing out, this is in the background. There's a fight scene with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Batman. Not fighting each other, but they're fighting a bunch of guys. And in the background, you can see Batman's not even. He's just throwing his arms in the air. He's not even hitting anybody. It's all over the place.
It's a Bat special. This laid the precedent, Niall. This movie right here.
Maybe he's just like, it's the sheer force of his boot. Like, he doesn't even need to connect. It's just like the G-force of his foot coming so close to you. It just knocks people flying.
It emits a wind that throws the opponent. That's what it is, you see. Comes out of the boot.
You're getting pulled along in its wake.
Yeah, because he's so muscular.
There we go.
Here's the thing, though, Jill. Like, throughout the entire Bat franchise, though, is there a fight that you can remember where you'd be like, that's the one? Like, that one. Like you know, you could have had like Christian Bale versus Bane, like that first one. That's a pretty intense fight. But like, is there one where you go like, that is particularly well done, or is it all because like, well, Batman, those suits aren't forgiving?
They are not. They are really not. Like I did a video about Batman Begins, and I said like, when I originally watched this film and I didn't know anything about stage combat, I thought the action was just amazing, and because basically, it's a movie. The whole point is that it gives you the correct feeling. And so when I watched the action scenes, not knowing anything about anything particularly, I was like, I am having the correct feelings. This is exciting. I'm a bit worried about what's going to happen. I think it's, violence is happening, stuff, whatever. And then watching it back, you go, yes, I see how you're trying to cut around to hide the fact that this man cannot correctly turn his head. I see that. But I get you. Batman Begins is kind of, it has the most restrictive suit, I think, and so they have to cut around a lot to try and make you not notice that. Which means that everything is kind of shaky cam, 5 cuts when you didn't really want 5 cuts and you really wanted 1 or 2, but it sort of works kind of thematically. I watched The Dark Knight Rises. I don't remember. I do remember him against Bane. I remember thinking that one wasn't bad, but mostly I was just so bored with the movie. I was like, I am just not having fun.
But the rest of Freeze's gang come in to take on the heroes. But this time, they are not on ice. This is not their arena. They do considerably worse in this battle, I think, than previously when they were trying to get the diamond.
Yeah, they're just like running around and hitting people. What's interesting, like I'm watching. What's interesting is how kind of disjointed it is, and how almost like TV show-esque. Like the set isn't as if there isn't like a whole coherent set. There are just bits of it, and so everything's really bitty. So everything's really close in, so you can see their faces, which I kind of get because probably mobility and stuff. But you can't. You don't know where they are in relation to each other. There's no sort of the Freeze's car is over here and the stage is over here and you're over here. There's nothing to establish where everybody is. You're just kind of cutting from one person to the other and you're like, I don't know where we are.
That's an excellent point.
But,
like, is Freeze across the room or is he next to them?
Yeah. Like at the end when he swings on the vine or whatever it is that he does, like what is the point of the vine? Because he just seems to launch himself into the space with a bar of ice or whatever. But
I have questions about this vine.
That's
I have so many questions about this vine.
Well, before that, though, we do get to me, I thought like, oh, that's a nifty little move where Robin jumps up on the stage.
Yeah.
These two guys come in to try to like sweep him off his feet with their sticks, and almost got a repeat of what he did in the beginning. So remember, he ran up a column and flipped over 2 guys backwards. I'm choosing to believe it's the same 2 goons as well. It's like they never learn.
Callback.
Yeah, but again, so he flips back, and he lands on his back, and then the camera moves up with him as he jumps to his feet, and like I don't know, maybe I'm just like, oh, the snazzy camera work though. But I thought that was well done. Although I imagine Jill coming in now and be like, no, that was one of the worst things I've ever seen.
I quite like that moment. I'm like, Batman and Robin is a really campy movie, and if you're gonna have a campy movie, you may as well kind of lean into it. And I feel like the villains know that they're in a campy movie. I mean, Uma Thurman earlier on is, when she goes to confront Bruce and he gives her this invitation to this thing, she wanders off monologuing.
To no one, yeah.
To no one in the middle of this. Like, there are people around you, lady. What are you doing?
It's beautiful. I love it so much. Everything she does is perfection. I'm just so obsessed with her.
The thing is, though, in that little flip, I do find it quite humorous, though, because clearly what would have happened on set was like that guy would have just backflipped off, and then they have to put in an insert shot of his feet hitting these two guys on the back.
Yep.
And it really does. You just imagine he's probably hanging off something. So I'm like, all right, hit them in the back now. And just, it looks very much like, something if they wanted to like convey like a dog dialing a phone or something. Just having a little.
It's like, I feel like Chris O'Donnell came in and went, I can do that thing where you sort of kip up from lying on your back into a standing position. They were like, great, let's do it twice. At least.
I tell you what, though, I love it, right? Because not only are we finally getting Robin doing some goddamn acrobatics, which he should be doing the whole time. This is his whole thing. But
kind of his shtick, yeah.
Well, it should be, but he never does any bloody acrobatics in this movie. But also the kip up, as a nerdy wrestling fan, that's Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid. That's his move. So I'm thinking about wrestling, baby. Why were wrestlers never in Batman movies? They should have been.
Well, they got Bane. In
No,
this one.
but I mean like big, like WWF wrestlers. You could have got a Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan could have been Mr. Freeze.
That was the third choice for Mr. Freeze.
Well, yeah.
It was Arnie, I think Stallone, and then Hulk Hogan.
That would have worked.
Were the ones. I couldn't have taken Hulk.
Are you saying you can take this Mr. Freeze seriously?
I think Hulk would take it to a whole new level as well. Because then I would be imagining he'd have the blue skin, but he'd still have the freaking blonde tash and
keep
stuff.
the tash.
Which I'd imagine, actually, to be fair, the auto promos here, Mr. Freeze, had big bushy like ginger eyebrows. So they could be like, of course he's got the blonde stash. Like Mr. Freeze, he always keeps his facial hair. What's the problem with
Wrestlers are the perfect people to cast as Batman villains.
Yeah.
I mean, they already have the costumes.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're missing out.
Actually, in terms of the costuming, though, because we talked a little bit about the new bat suits that brought in here, though, and one thing though I did note in the making of book, they talked distinctly about modifications they made, and we know that Val Kilmer's previous suit was designed to be like a Greek statue, specifically to be sort of anatomical and muscular and things like this, and apparently these are more based on Roman gladiator like body plates. I believe they're called. I might be getting this pronunciation wrong. Cuirasses.
Cuirass.
Yeah. The heroic cuirasses. And actually, weirdly enough, if you look at the historic examples, they do have nipples on them.
Yeah.
They were probably adapted to the body. And yeah, so actually,
not exactly. It's more like you paint or you hammer in the details of the musculature. It doesn't actually have to reflect what they look like underneath. It's just to make you look shiny and intimidating.
Yeah, but so yeah, they do show you like pictures of like the cuirasses and then like literally the body armor, where it does look a bit more like it is kind of like a breastplate strapped onto them rather than one big long jumpsuit. I guess, and it could be like I would improve mobility and stuff as well because it's not like all because it's separate pieces. It'll be less restrictive. Although there is one shot of George Clooney lifting up his arm. And it's just like, it looks really, really flimsy because you can see there's just like a nylon suit underneath everything. It's like, that doesn't look so great. But it also got me thinking as well that Mr. Freeze's suit, like particularly his helmet, I was wondering if they were kind of going for like a Roman centurion vibe with him. Because you look at the framing around his face, it kind of looks like those old helmets. And he's got this blue streak across the top that looks like the big red broom handle, not broom handles, the broom base,
like a kind of mohawky thing that they had. Yeah.
I was wondering if that was they don't specify that in the book, but I was like, from that, I'm like, well, they're going for that kind of gladiatorial thing.
I can see it. Yeah.
I was just thinking how difficult, like we say the rubber suits are difficult to move in, but how difficult is a thing that's basically made? I mean, it's probably made of mostly like plastic, but like the supposedly metal bits, but still. Like, hello, I'm covered in, 50 different individual pieces of plastic painted to look like metal, and some of them glow. This is very easy to move in. Yes.
Yeah. It looks very difficult, and then of course he's caked in that makeup, which isn't just normal makeup. It's like glistening. It's glittery. Yeah. He must be dying.
I think the dude that said, like, I guess to make it, well, to be fair, he was getting $25 million, but to make it more comfortable for Arnie, apparently they had a special seat made for him, so he could sit comfortably between takes while they kind of modified everything, and it had an inbuilt ashtray because he was just like constantly smoking cigars while they're at it.
I still love. I know we've talked about it, but I still love the way Mr. Freeze smokes cigars just because Arnold refused to stop smoking them on set. Oh,
But,
you know when Freeze at the start of this gets disarmed? Actually, I completely forgot to bring this up. So he gets disarmed, and then in the draft, when he sends his goons out, he has a really crappy line that I hate. Right. So, yeah, the gun flies out of his arms, and to send his goons into battle, he goes, "When technology fails, brute force." But why?
Yeah, it does feel like every minute of Arnie counts. He has to say a line every single time he's on screen.
And the movie is the restrained version.
Yeah. No, I think that was one of the wise cuts. I believe to take that out.
There's no need. Just send your goons are there for a reason. You don't need to make a joke all the time. And if you do, make it a goddamn ice pun.
Yeah. But,
Maybe they were running out by this point. Gotta save the really good ones for the end, but we're kind of flagging a little bit here.
Yeah, I'd suggest 50% of them are flagging.
Just like, that's the thing. I'm feeling the pressure now. Like we're 47 minutes in. I'm having to write those outros, and it's like, oh crap! How many times can you say ice? I don't know.
Just keep it going. Doesn't matter. 1,000 times.
But I'll tell you, somebody who's enjoying this display. They keep cutting back to Poison Ivy, and she is hot for this whole scenario.
Yeah.
They give it a little saxophone flourish, and she is just like, oh, hello. Like
She's very into him, isn't she?
Yeah, she is ready for his jelly.
She's is it the action that she likes though, like the fighting? Because she seems like aroused almost, or is it the fact that Batman and Robin are like they're amped up due to her powers? Like she's led them into battle almost. Like, oh, you're fighting for me.
I took it to be more like it's an instant thing for Mr. Freeze, because we know he's got away with the ladies. Obviously, we saw misbehaving Vivica A. Fox back in his hideout. Apparently, he's just got a magnetism about him.
I mean, I think she alone of everyone in that cave is not hideously cold, despite the fact that she's mostly wearing fake fur and plastic, which I think is a real testament to her dedication to like this random blue guy that she's happened across. But yes, Poison Ivy is like well into this, and it's kind of like, okay.
You think she'd be into a warm character?
I think it might just be the brutality.
It must.
She just likes that he's a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also like this guy's just burst in. I think she likes a powerful guy. So he's burst in, he's taking what he wants, and he's doing he's just beating the crap out of people to get it.
She's powerful. Like, oh. She doesn't need a powerful guy. Maybe that's why though. It's like he's an equal.
Oh yeah, I think it's very much like, oh, he's like me. Like, she has to do things through sort of seductive means. She can't come in with brute force. She has to come in and be like, okay, pheromones and using her wiles to win people over. Whereas this guy is just like, no, freaking tank through the door and just using security guards to beat up other security guards.
Oh, I love that. He uses a security guard's face as a weapon. Smashing another guy. Well, that's why these two would be a good duo. Are they going to team up? Who knows, listeners?
I can't see it. Can't see it happening at all. Villains teaming up in a Batman.
Crazy.
That never happens.
It is a good team, though, as you say, because one has a very different approach to the other. So they're covering all bases, really.
It's like, it's kind of like, your D&D party, and you have Poison Ivy, who's kind of the rogue. You got to sneak in places and sort of wild them.
So what's Freeze, though? Is he a tank or is he a warrior?
So I feel like he's a, I don't know, like barbarian. Does he get extra points if he rages?
Plus, he did play Conan the Barbarian. So there you go. He's a barbarian by nature.
Although one thing, though, not Conan, but a kind of Tarzan action that Mr. Freeze takes is... This whole bit, so he goes boo to this lady up in like her kind of Martin Prince cage, where Martin and the Simpsons will be ironing his shirt up there, singing freaking opera to himself, and it's just he drops this vine, and then somehow Mr. Freeze then, like Spider-Man, propels himself and all 500 pounds or whatever of this hulking metal suit up onto the stage to meet Poison Ivy.
This is one of most ridiculous and stupid things in the movie, and I defend this movie. But this one brief moment, why does he fly to the stage? There's no momentum.
There's nothing. Like, it's preceded by Batman and Robin doing some kind of simultaneous backflip thing, and you're kind of like, okay, no, I'm with you.
Yeah.
It's cool. We're doing a kind of campy gymnastic fight scene, and we're doing things in sync because we're so in sync.
Yeah.
And then this happens, and you're like,
he literally takes off like he's got rocket boots.
yeah.
And it's bizarre. Just have him at the very least, make a swinging motion.
It's Wonder Woman 1984. Like, went to see that movie, was like, what's wrong with her swinging? Is this meant to be foreshadowing that she's going to be able to fly? Except I don't feel like it is. I feel like they're just bad at physics. It is a movie that makes less sense the more you think about it, but I watched it and was like, aside from this one horrifying implication of stealing some guy's body, which I am going to ignore because it's a bit like, like a Batman movie where he pulls out guns and starts shooting people. like this is
that would never happen.
This is so far outside the normal modus operandi of the character that I am choosing to ignore it.
Is it specifically, I know the whole movie is probably what you're on about, but is it specifically that bit when she's abroad and she sweeps like down to rescue those children?
I mean, that is one of them.
I could imagine that was...
Yeah. Like, but I first noticed it in the shopping mall, like in the first scene.
Oh, yeah, she does a similar thing there.
It was so egregiously weird that I thought, is someone going to call cut? Is this going to be like we're making a Wonder Woman TV show?
Oh, and she is playing the character. Weird. Yeah.
That actually would have been good though if they had like, oh yeah. Although I guess it was that people would be like, well, she wasn't like a TV star in the other movies. And it's like, does this movie feel like it's connected to the other films though? Like,
well, this is the DC problem, isn't it? Nothing feels connected. It's all just random nonsense, and it sometimes does work, and then often doesn't work.
Yeah, but in random nonsense, it's Arnie. Yeah, so I always had the impulse to call him Arnie rather than Mr.
Oh yeah,
Freeze,
I call him Arnie all the time. Don't worry.
But yeah, so he goes up. I'm surprised because he do get a bit of a as he jumps. I'm surprised, and quite frank, maybe they did try it, but it feels like they would have had him do like a Tarzan yell here. But then you would have had to have been Arnold Schwarzenegger going like
Why not?
They're like, I feel that might have been like a line in the sand where they had to go. Okay, we can't go that far.
We can't do that. Let's dial it back.
I reckon do it because what happens next is too restrained. Because obviously Freeze looks her up and down when he lands on the stage, and he tries to guess her name. He's like, Plank Girl, Vine Lady, Arnold. These are terrible. They're not.
I mean, to be fair, like all of the other women on the stage are named after plants. So
yeah.
But
she's clearly said that she's Poison Ivy.
Yeah, it's atrocious too. And I don't. Again, this would to me negate her being attracted to him because he's so condescending. Yeah. He comes up and it's like, "Look at you! Like, isn't it good you got dressed up for this?" Like, it's such an insulting way to talk to someone.
Unfortunately, some people fall for that.
Okay, but that's the thing. It's like, it's fair enough where some people, but it's becoming a through line in Joel Schumacher's Bat Ladies, or maybe Akiva Goldsman's, because. Like, remember in Batman Forever, Chase Meridian, she had the horn for Batman in a big bad way. But the first thing the Batman did was insult her. Yeah. Like, he came down and he's like, oh, I've read your work. Insightful. Naive, but insightful. And it's like, she's a fully qualified psychologist, man. And you're calling her work naive. Like, what the hell
are you bat-splaining to the woman?
He literally was, yeah.
And so, but she was still like, "Oh, Batman! Oh, come to my boudoir."
Yeah, like you're much smarter than me.
Yeah, I'm a woman in a professional field. I obviously get really hot when men condescend to me because they think they know better. Like,
well, you can't argue with Batman.
And then so he comes up and he's just like, "Oh, look at you, plant girl, vine." Like he's just ridiculing the fact that like, oh,
maybe because he wasn't there for this introduction, he just thinks she's one of the randos on the stage.
Yeah,
like
true.
He thinks she's the sort of she's just like the tiger lily, and has just been chosen because she's very pretty.
Oh, that's a good point. He doesn't necessarily know. And maybe through their interactions, he's like, hang on, there's something about this woman.
Yes. I mean, give me the diamond. It's red, and I don't understand. Like, I don't understand why it's red. You'd think if it's called a diamond, it would be colorless.
Yeah, like clear. Yeah, exactly. It's bizarre. But then
I'm
he's
having
like,
flashbacks to the Eye of Argon. Have you ever read the Eye of Argon?
I know of
No.
it. But
No, it's like sort of the worst fantasy story ever. Like, think of the terrible submissions that you get to slush piles. And there used to be like competitions at cons where you had to read the Eye of Argon and you had to pass it on when you started laughing. But you had to read it seriously for as long as you could. But
That's
one
a
of the things
great
that happens in the Eye of Argon is that they're looking for a red emerald. Hand over the diamond. This giant honking red for some reason diamond.
No, not just that, though. Hand over the diamond. Garden gal.
It's odd, though, because there's been purposeful cuts made here. Because in the script and in the novelization, she actually does clap back at him. Because he comes up and he's like, oh, let me guess. Plant girl, vine lady, Miss Moss. I don't know why they cut Miss Moss. But maybe it's just like Elizabeth Moss is sitting in the audience going,
Or
me?
Kate Moss at the time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, actually, yeah. Someone who would have been relevant in the 90s. But then she says, like, listen, Captain Cold, the suit maybe, even though Silver went out in the 70s, but those boots are unforgivable. What is it with men? And one, I love the fact that, because we addressed the fact that, like, Mr. Freeze as a character is kind of a ripoff of Captain Cold.
Yeah.
So it's like they're kind of calling him out there, but I'm like, I don't know if it's an allusion to, she's just saying Captain Cold because he's called her sort of like silly versions of what her whole persona is.
That's what she's doing, yeah.
Or it could be that, Superman exists in this universe. They reference him. It could also be that the Flash exists and Captain Cold actually is a known presence who's been in like the newspapers and stuff. And she's like, well, you can, Mr. Freeze is actually a fanboy of Captain Cold the whole time. It's like, oh, yes, it is. But the whole reason I fell into that was so I could be more like Captain Cold.
To be honest, before Freeze, though, asks for the diamond, he has his own little clap back at that. Because he goes, I'd love to stand here all day and exchange fashion tips, but I'm kind of pressed for time. I love that.
It's like, I love that exchange, and I'm really sad that it's not in the movie.
Yeah, it's fun.
But taking her clapping back at him out, it does leave it as if like he comes up, condescends to Poison Ivy, and then she's like, oh, I like him. It's like, why should she? She should be giving him crap back. And I'm like, oh, well, then maybe I'm like, well, maybe we could be a pairing. But the implication from the straight off, and its simplistic terms, is that she sees him, she fancies him, and she wants Mr. Freeze.
I'm slightly more nuanced. I think she sees something she can use in him, which would tie in with her whole attitude in that cut bit. What is it with men? Because men are the worst. Let's be honest, men are just terrible. So why not use him? Screw it, use him. He's a tank of a man.
How do you feel about Poison Ivy and actually Batgirl in this movie, Jill? Like, as a woman yourself, do you find them to be empowering in any way, or?
When I was, hang on, what year did this movie come out?
97.
Okay, so when I was, let's add another couple of years. I don't know, 12 years old or 13. I wanted to be like Batgirl because she got to ride motorbikes and like kick people in the head, and that was amazing. Never particularly wanted to be Poison Ivy, who just seemed to like float about, murdering people by snogging them. Just
that's great though.
Meh.
I do like the idea that like I then spent several years driving around motorbikes kicking people in the head, and after a while it just got old.
Then I decided I'd try the alternative, but that didn't really work out either. Anyway, then I started a YouTube channel.
It is interesting seeing the different approaches, because I've always just been obsessed with Poison Ivy in this. Like, to me, she's the movie. As good as Freeze is, she's the film.
Yeah, like watching it as a grown-up, she's the most fun part. Like, none of the heroes seem to know that they're in a really campy Batman adaptation, and so they're taking it really seriously, and it's kind of not working.
And then she's just doing Mae West.
And she's just like, Come in, Ben, darling. I'm just gonna go and kill some mammals now.
It's great.
What do you think of my leotard? It's got Ivy on it because that's my name.
Yeah. We'll say, though, I don't think we might convince... I think this is the only scene we get her in this particular outfit, but this is a very comics accurate, rendition of the Poison Ivy
And
look.
it makes sense because she's at an event where people are in costumes. So, yeah.
But yeah, that's all the notes I got for minute 46. Beyond my own disdain for Plant Girl and Vine Lady, as someone again writing all those outros, the amount of different terms I've had to come up for Poison Ivy. The one I'm most proud of is Dame of the Triffids.
Oh.
And then they hear Plant Girl. It's come on, man, come on, Akiva Goldsman, you had time to write this. You can think up any of these things.
Oh, that's much, much, much better.
But
the only other note
yeah.
I've got is that there is a comedy sound effect when Robin trips that person up with is it a drinks tray that looks like a sombrero?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a proper banana peel slip.
Yeah, no, stop this, please. Don't put in comedy sound effects. No. It's funny without the sound effect. It's fine. Once you put the sound effect in, it's stupid.
It is also a little bit I don't know how heavy that tray is supposed to be, but it feels if it was just a wooden tray, it would just hit the guy's shins or whatever.
Hey, what are you
And he was,
doing?
What? It'd almost be funnier if that is what happened, and he just kind of come here, you went over to just grab Robin. But yeah, does anyone have any other notes for minute 47 in particular, or
For this minute, I'm done.
well,
They switch their capes about. The fighting style seems mostly to be you need to get them kind of at chest level and above, ideally. And if it's a full body shot, just make them swish their capes about dramatically so you don't notice that they can't really move that well.
Hey, they're thinking about it at least. At least they've gone, right, we can't move. How can we still look like we're having a fight?
It's fair.
I will note in the making of book that there was a Bat Cape key person called Claudia Hardy, and her whole job was to give the capes extra buoyancy so they could swish around as appropriate, which is that must be a dream job for someone. This is I'm the person who makes the Bat Capes all flippy and stuff.
Love it.
One thing this season we're asking, Jill, because Batman and Robin is so reviled / revered as the worst film ever made, or one of the worst films ever made, we're asking guests what they believe to be the worst film they've ever seen. I don't know if you got any. Do you have anything to throw down that gauntlet?
Yeah, quite a controversial one, I think, because it's a Coen Brothers movie and everybody loves the Coen Brothers.
Ooh.
But I went to the cinema with my friends in whatever year it was released, and we didn't really know what anything was, and so we just picked the one that sounded good, and it had George Clooney in it.
Oh
And
no,
it was
I
Burn
think I know what
After
you're gonna say.
Reading.
I love that movie.
Yeah, see, that's what everyone says. I hated every second of it.
Even the scene where he smashes the dildo chair.
I don't remember that happened.
Oh,
but,
that's the best scene.
Yeah.
I hated every character. I hated all of the things that they did. And I just, I was sitting there in the cinema I've never got up and walked out of a film in my life, but if the people around me are any indication, they are also seriously considering it. But I did pay to watch this movie, so I might just sit here.
Yeah, you've got to stay. You've got to stay. That was me during the Predator, though, which I've brought up on this show many times. That's my worst one. I almost left, but I couldn't do that to Niall. He was there watching it.
I think Burn After Reading is an odd one to me because I enjoyed a lot of it, but it did feel cause it was the immediate aftermath of No Country for Old Men, and that's more of a kind of artsy affair.
That's a very different type of film.
Yeah, but at the end of that, it's kind of there's no spoilers for the end of No Country for Old Men. There is no confrontation between Shurgoth, the Harvey Bardem character, and Josh Brolin. You're kind of thinking it's going to come all to a head, but then it turns out no, Josh Brolin gets killed by someone else off screen. You don't even see it happen, and it's kind of, and then Tommy Lee Jones is just sort of oh, funny how the way things work. And it's kind of a reflection of sometimes things in life just don't go the way you think they're going to go, and you don't always get your dramatic climaxes. And then in Burn After Reading, which is more of a kind of screwball comedy, they do the same thing. where there is no, like, friggin' Brad Pitt gets randomly killed midway through the movie.
Oh, but it's amazing, that.
And then, like, yeah, at the end, it all kind of just, the things sort of just come to a random flimsy head and then stop. And it just kind of cuts to J.K. Simmons going like, huh, well, that was weird. And I think it's like they're going for the same kind of thing as like, oh, this is the Coen brothers' new sort of stint of like, yeah, climaxless films. But that, I think because that's more of a comedy, you almost wanted to be more straight, basically.
Yeah, but you could argue that it has a similar end in A Serious Man.
Mm.
The way that just sort of ends with, there's like is it like a tornado's approaching the town or something, or a hurricane?
Yeah.
And it just ends.
Yeah, that does feel like that's like the final plague about to hit the guy, though. Like, it's just like everything's been building up to the worst possible thing, and there it is. It's literally coming. There's a tornado coming right towards his family. But yeah, those two movies. But also, though, to end in a more positive note, though, Jill, because Batman and Robin is also beloved by many people, we're asking if people have films that they love that are considered wildly bad by the general public, but you will defend to the death.
Ooh. So I don't know about considered bad by everybody, but a lot of people really hated the 2005 Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley in it.
Oh.
Because the sort of my generation, I guess, watched the 6-hour miniseries with Jennifer, where everybody looks about 5 years older than they should be at a minimum.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter, and they do the whole book, and it's got Colin Firth in it, and for some reason he jumps in a lake. And it's just...
Clearly a Purple Rain tribute.
Why not?
Lake Minnetonka,
Yep.
yes.
There's now a horrifying statue of Mr. Darcy at the place where they shot Pemberley, I think.
Amazing.
It's not even it's just scary. Anyway, but like the 2005 one, they were like, okay, we're going to condense this book, which you can easily make into a 6-hour miniseries, into a 2-hour film. And we're going to make a whole load of other aesthetic choices, which aren't necessarily particularly historically accurate, but, whatever. And we're going to have Keira Knightley, and we're going to do all of this stuff. And a lot of people really hate it. And I'm like, no, but it's not the same. And okay, perhaps if you're looking for book accuracy, then this is not your thing. But there are so many great things that they do in it. Like the morning after they go to this ball, like a private ball at the Bingleys, like everybody's sitting at the table just obviously really hungover. And then when they're all like lounging around at home, and then someone goes, "Mr. Bingley's coming," and then they all leap out of their chairs to make themselves look a bit more presentable and pretend that they're lounging about at home, but doing, embroidery or whatever. Like they get out the fancy embroidery. And then Mary Bennett is a proto-goth. Like all of the Bennett sisters are sort of in Empire Waists, and Mary Bennett's just there, black bonnet, dark grey, sort of semi-goth kind of vibe. And I was just like, I like this. This is very random, but I kind of dig it.
No, hell yeah. I don't see the problem with it. Okay, it's not 100% the book, as you say, but if you want that, read the book.
It's true.
But on that note, we will head off into the dark night. Would you like to tell our listeners where you can be found online or promote anything that you're working on at the moment?
Sure. You can find me on YouTube if you search Jill with a J, Bearup, which is bear like the animal and up like the direction. And you will probably find me most likely either talking about fights in movies or stabbing things for to test veracity of things that happen in films.
That's bliss. That's what I want to spend my days doing, stabbing things. That's great. That's what my cat does. So
to be fair, that's what my cat does too.
So do check that out, everybody, and check us out. All the usual Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just put in Bat Minute or The Bat Minute. We'll come up. And look up our network's T-shirts and whatnot on TeePublic. Go to Sleepy Charlie Media's TeePublic page. You can get T-shirts, mugs, pillows. You can sit on my face, everything. Whatever you want. It's all exciting, wonderful, amazing stuff. Get a sticker. You can put me on your fridge. I don't know. You can put Niall's cartoon face on your laptop. Brilliant. What more do you want in life? That's what we've all aspired to. So do that, and we'll be back on Friday with more Bat, Minute, and Robin.
Next time, no time for love, Dr. Isley. Pammy's perplexed as her potion of persuasion catches a cold fish on this particular occasion. But as Freeze swipes left and leaves Ivy bereft by shaking off her chemical lariat, can the icy psycho give us the slip and escape in his chilly chariot? Our blood is heating up for Friday, Bat fans. Same Bat pod, different Bat minute.
We'll be back.